All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of the Warrior Women Thriving Live podcast, where we're having courageous conversations to empower survivors after abuse or trauma. So, tonight, our special guest is relationship coach Olga Kaplan. Hello, Olga. Welcome to the podcast tonight.
Hello, Alaysha, and thank you for having me, and welcome everybody.
All right. So we're just going to have a nice dialogue for those of you who may be here live or on the replay. We just ask you to and encourage you to come in for the Q&A if you're here live and ask questions at the end. We ask that you mute out so it's just us on the line and we don't interfere with our guests tonight. So we're just going to start off getting to know Olga a little bit and just finding out. So Olga, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where are you from and, a little bit more about what you do.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I was born in Belarus, and about 24 years ago, I came to the United States, and back then I was married, and that's actually where my journey began, in the abusive marriage and the whole unfolding and healing and breaking the patterns. And I've been in the United States for the last 24 years. And as I started my awakening process, and it happened about 15 years ago, where I really got in touch with who I am, and I started unraveling everything that happened before and what it means and what I absorbed as a child, as an adult in this relationship, and also during my childhood. So this is where I had to face so many unpleasant truths and get in touch and get to know myself once again. And as part of this healing journey, I realized that I developed ability, not just being a stand for myself, but also being an advocate for women, for women's worthiness, for women's health, for women's thriving. And that's exactly what we are talking about tonight. And creating a safe environment for women where they can share, where they can feel seen and understood, and where I could share the shortcuts so they don't need to spend many years in abusive relationships. They don't need to spend many years judging themselves. They can follow steps as long as they have this desire to get out of the unhealthy situation. Everything is possible. And I'm a living example. And that's why I became a coach, to support women and to hold space for them, and also to hold their hand when they need it.
I love that. So tell me why you accepted my invitation tonight.
Great question. As a survivor of domestic violence, of abusive marriage, I feel that I have gone through a deep journey of transformation and also healing my own shame and unworthiness. And this is actually what got me into that relationship to begin with. And shame is such a tricky thing. It only lives when it's dark and when nobody can see it, right? It's my own thoughts, it's my own self-judgment. If I'm not sharing with anybody, it just grows stronger. But this is what I learned on my journey. Once I started opening up and sharing what was going on with me, then all of a sudden those shameful thoughts, they disappeared. Like they no longer had power over me. And
Wow.
when women share, when they come together, when they feel safe to support each other and to share their deepest, darkest secrets, amazing transformation happens. And this is when we can put some light on the dark secrets, and they are no longer dark and they are no longer secrets, and they do not have power over us anymore. And
I
then
want to
go
unpack
ahead.
that a little bit, Olga, because I love what you said about the darkness, the secrets, and having power over you. Can you just kind of go a little bit deeper right there? Because I think that, we always see the campaigns break the silence in the violence, right? So I think that's what you're sharing to activate your voice, because that's what I teach the women in my program, to find their authentic true voice. So can you speak to that a little bit, what that might look like when you're kind of going in that deep, dark place and shining a light, as you said? I love that.
Yes, great question. And I'll give you an example. When I was in that abusive relationship, so the messages that I've been hearing were, you are too much, you are unlovable, you're not gonna find anybody else, I am your only savior, and you have to stay here, and nobody will listen to you, and you are worthless, you are a nobody, and if they only knew how bad of a person you are, nobody will speak to you, nobody will love you, like you are not worthy of love, you are not worthy of respect, like all the gaslighting, all these messages. And if
Wow.
I stay with these messages, and I did stay with these messages, like brewing in my own shame for a long time, and once I had the courage, and it's really about making a decision. I don't care anymore if anybody loves me, but staying in this relationship is painful and unbearable, and I choose not to stay here anymore. So
Wow.
whatever happens, let it be out of control, let it be painful, but nothing will be as painful as staying here as a prisoner of this toxic relationship. So once always, but like when everything is in your own head and the only reflection you have is from your abusive partner, you start thinking that the problem is you, right?
Of
And
course. Yeah.
you cannot really share with anybody because you are ashamed. And I'll speak for myself. I was trying to pretend we have a good relationship. We were trying to throw dinner parties or taking beautiful pictures or travel the world together. And nobody really knew what was going on behind closed doors. And to be very honest, I was deeply ashamed of that. I failed. My relationship failed. I am, as a woman, a failure. And I didn't even know how to get out of there. So I was
Yes.
maintaining this facade while like everything is okay, while at the same time I was suffering in silence and
Mhm.
I couldn't really share with anybody. And that shame was just growing stronger.
Wow. And I know tonight we're here to cultivate self-worth, worth, sorry, and heal shame. And so let's go back a little bit further, because you mentioned about, touched on it a little bit about childhood experiences. Let's start there, because like the breakdown that I have, I want to really talk and speak to your past, and then in that situation of what you went through, like how your childhood might have supported anything that might have happened in that relationship, and then that journey of transformation. So let's look at it from that perspective. Let's start with your past, and then we get back into how that childhood experience may have impacted whatever you were dealing with, right, with your abusive marriage. And then how did you walk out of it like that? What did that transformation look like? So let's start with your childhood experience, because I want people to get a sense of what it looks like in the journey, but how they too can overcome their own situations.
Yes, all absolutely. It all started in childhood. And even though there was no violence or addiction present in my childhood, at the same time, there was no emotional connection. Everybody was busy surviving, and we were like not a very wealthy family. So like my stepfather passed away at a really young age. So my mom was trying to handle two kids. My grandfather was trying to help. So it was not something safe and loving and affectionate. It was more like you figure it out. And what was happening, that I could never express myself emotionally, because every time I would try to, I would be told, like, don't cry, it's okay, like, don't make a big scene out of it, like you're overreacting, you're exaggerating, all these messages. So what I learned, and again, as children, we are trying to figure out how to stay in connection to our caregivers, right? How not to lose the belonging, how not to lose their love. So our brains are trying to figure out ways and coping mechanisms how to survive and adjust to the situation. So for me, the situation presented itself that my emotions were never welcome. And what happened? I developed a pattern where I would never share my emotions anymore. And I would also know that any desires or any dreams or anything that I wanted, that would not be welcome, because all these messages about not having enough money or not having enough resources or all of that stuff. So my desires are not valid and they're not welcome there. And I learned as a child that I'm not going to go to my caregivers with my desires. I'm not even going to share it. What I'm going to do, because I still want what I want, I'm going to manipulate or con something out of like out of different situations, or maybe I'll manipulate somebody else into, anyway, like I was trying to give myself what I wanted. And at the same time, I knew that I couldn't just directly communicate, or I couldn't directly express my emotional needs. And that became a pattern. I never shared my feelings, and that part, and also the messages, again, the parents are only doing the same as it was done onto them before. And it took me a long time to get there, get to understanding and get to a compassionate place towards my parents. So even, for example, my mom could say something when I was misbehaving, like she didn't know what to do with me. And she would say something, oh, I'm going to tell everybody, because everywhere else I was A+ student. It was really easy for me to get good grades, and I had lots of friends. So my mom would say something like, if they only knew how bad of a person you were, like nobody will be friends with you, something like that, right? Nobody would like you at school. And that was the first shame, like seeds of shame planted, like there is something wrong with me and I should be ashamed of that, and I'm not a good person and I should hide it. I cannot be who I am. I need to present a nice facade or nice box with a wrapping paper and a bow on top, but I cannot be my true self, because that's not welcome and that's not going to be liked.
Wow.
So
I can see how when you said that seed was planted, the shame right there. Wow. a lot to do with identity, a false identity, right? And yeah, so continue, please. Wow.
Yes, yes. And it's not about blaming my mom. She really wanted the best for me, and that was something that was done onto her, so she just continued the legacy. She didn't break this cycle. And even with those kind of tools that she was using onto me, planting seeds of shame, actually what she was trying to do, she was trying for me to behave better. That's all. Like, she was not trying to do any damage, but because there was no awareness and not enough personal growth work back then, it wasn't popular, it didn't exist back then. So this is what was happening. And basically when I got to, like, I didn't know how to be emotionally intelligent in any relationship. All I knew is I had to perform, and I had to show up as this, I don't know, overachieving person, and get good grades and get everybody else's approval. And my emotions don't matter, so I can just like stifle them down because nobody will care. And also, I cannot just ask for something. When I want something, I need to manipulate my way to get it. So it was hard. So, and also this is something very important, the physical affection, the physical closeness. There was no such thing in my family when I was growing up. And now we know the importance of being close, of having this like affectionate love expressed in the family. Like the young newborns, like they have to have it, otherwise they can even die, right, without having this kind of skin to skin contact.
I
So
saw that study too about, it was a while back, that they did a study with babies to see, you know, the effects on them. And you're right, that like without the physical touch and that kind of nurturing and TLC, those kids, those babies died. They didn't even become kids, you know, because they died at the baby stage. So it's so important. It's one of the 5 love languages as well.
yes, yes. So imagine me, this overachieving, maintaining the nice facade, good grades and everything, and all of a sudden I meet a man, and I was young, I was only 17, and all of a sudden I'm getting this physical affection. So for me, that was filling up a huge void that was missing. Finally, this love was like a drug. It's like I couldn't let it go, and that's why it was so all-consuming, even though the relationship dynamic was not very healthy to begin with. At the same time, the amount of physical love that I was getting was like compensating for everything, because this was something that I craved and nobody else could give it to me, right?
Wow.
So, and then when my before he even became a husband, like when the messages were similar to my mother's messages, oh, you are not good enough, like if they knew how bad of a person you were, they wouldn't like you, they wouldn't be your friend. So it was very similar messaging, so it did feel like home. It just reinforced what I heard before. So to say something, oh, did you see the red flags? No, I did not. It felt good. It felt like home.
Yeah. Wow. So I love what you're saying here about it felt like home. This was a normal kind of behavior characteristics. You didn't see red flags. How would you, right? Because to you, this is what happens. And I love what you said though, like the first time when you receive that physical touch, you know, you was craving it. It's something you long for. So I can obviously see how, you know, you can be convinced, right, that this was the love of your life. So at what point though did you notice though something wasn't right? Because at some point you had to realize, right? So when did you notice? What did that look like for you?
Well, it's been a long journey. We got married. We came together to the United States. We were trying to figure it out. And besides the physical violence, there were also addiction. There was binge drinking, and also he didn't want to work. And I was the only one working, and I was the breadwinner, and it was hard. So, and at the same time, because I was getting something, right? Like he was my friend, he was my lover. He was kind of the man, even though with all the dark sides. So, and because I never had a healthy relational role model in front of me, I had no idea how it's done. So I was doing, and it was just us here in the new country, and I knew like I cannot share everything with my friends, because some part of me always knew that things were off. And also I knew there was some kind of faux loyalty. If I complain about him, I'm betraying him, and I'm this loyal wife, I have to take care of him. So it was ignoring my own needs, and losing myself completely, and also being absolutely deeply codependent. If he's not feeling good, I cannot feel good, right? That's this classic definition of codependency. You cannot have your own feelings. You can only feel what your partner is feeling. So there were a lot of enmeshment and a lot of unhealthy dynamics. But then again, what did I know about relationships? I was trying to figure it out, and every violent episode will pass, and then there would be lots of love and affection and tears of forgiveness, and then the cycle will start again.
Right.
So it wasn't like, and this is the trickiest thing, it's never like bad all the time. It's the cycle. It's cycle of bad things, violent things, and then this is a cycle of remorse, crying for forgiveness, promises of love and change, and then the cycle continues. And when at one point what happened, I didn't know how to get myself out of it, because he was completely dependent on me. And I was more concerned about the how. How is it going to happen? If I am to remove myself, if I am to get a divorce, like who's going to take care of him? Can you imagine the craziness of those thoughts? And I know many women are going through this.
Yeah.
They are thinking, just as I was thinking, who's going to take care of my abuser if I leave him? And one day I remember it was probably about 11, 12 years into the marriage, I just imagined for a moment what life would be like without him. And my whole body just came alive. And I remember I was at work and everybody noticed a different vibe from me. And it was only in my fantasy, I just imagined. And another thing which is interesting, people say like how like we want to help some friend or some relative who are in this abusive situation, but they would not hear us. and that this is absolutely true, nobody could tell me what to do. Nobody. It was me. It was me when I made that decision. And then I didn't care anymore about how it's going to unfold. So what actually happened one day, that was enough. That was the last drop. That was the last night of violence. And I decided enough is enough. And I just went to the police and I filed the police report. And this is the craziest thing what happened after. Between that day that I filed the police report and the day that he left the country and I never saw him again, it was only 10 days.
Oh, wow.
So it took only one step and everything got figured out. And there were crazy stories about how I was serving papers in a different country and everything. But everything got figured out because I made the decision within myself. I said to myself, I'm worthy of being loved, of being respected, and I make no agreements with the situation as it is right now. It was me. So that's why I couldn't hear any of my friends' concerns. They didn't know the whole depth of what was going on. And at the same time, I knew I couldn't even share, because if I shared, I would need to make some changes. And I wasn't ready to make those changes. So as the moment I decided and I was clear, I don't know how it's going to happen, and it's going to happen. I'm taking steps. Then everything unfolded, and everything, like I got support from unexpected places.
And I want to interject there, because that's a big thing right there. When you talk about support, a lot of women don't have the support. And in your case, you moved to a whole new country. So essentially you were isolated. But I want to go back to transformation, because that journey of transformation does take that one moment in time when you make a decision that enough is enough. And you're right when you mentioned that it had to be you, right? It had to be a point where it was enough for you, because we hear a lot of stories, unfortunately, of our sisters who stay in these situations. They know they need to get out, but it takes 7 tries, first of all, sometimes to even leave an abuser. But in this case, like you said, it was that last straw, if you will, and enough was enough. And I just want to get to a place where, for if you are watching, whether it's live or the replay, that when you do get to that place, know your self-worth. And that's what Olga is talking about tonight, is cultivating that self-worth and healing that shame. And coming out of an abusive situation, it needs to be planned, right? It's a strategic process. It's not something you just do. You really need to be planning your exit, if and your safety. So I know for us, we're here in the United States, because this is a global outreach, but we're here in the United States, and the number is 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE. And it's important that, get on the hotline. That's the national hotline. And unless you have a local DV center, and of course, be safe when you're reaching out to these people, because depending on the situation, that person could be tracking or following your every move. So just be very careful, but you want to have it strategically done. Olga, I love what you're saying. You got to a place where you made one decision and everything else kind of fell in line after that, because you decided to go ahead and make the report against the abuse and the violence. And some of us, unfortunately, don't do that, right? Or we may initiate the process. I know in my case, I dropped it, the first time. And it's like, you don't really necessarily want to, report them or get them arrested. You want them to be better. But like you said, it is a cycle. And that cycle is the power and control wheel that you're talking about, because it's a lot of cycles within that power and control wheel, right? It's first there's this honeymoon phase, everything is bliss, then there's the balance, and there's the apology, then there's the buildup, and it just keeps repeating itself. So I want to just ask you though, what resources, because you said you found some support, what resources were you able to get or attract? Because you were new here in this country. I mean, by this time it was 12 years though. You said you had been in this situation. So what resources did you have in order to transition out of this abusive marriage?
Yeah, good question. So exactly, do not make any sudden moves. You gotta take care of your own safety. Be strategic. It's like, yes, the decision is yours and you know there is no turning back. And at the same time, please be safe and have a trusted friend. Also, contact your local safety shelters. I know I turned to somebody recommended once I started sharing, somebody recommended organization Safe Horizon. They helped me a lot. And also they helped me with divorce, even like serving papers overseas, like those kind of things. Also, I'm so grateful for my local law enforcement team that listened to me and took me in and absolutely were compassionate and supportive. And enroll your friend, like some of the closest people, like have somebody to have your back, have a place to so you could stay, and have some kind of backup plan. Maybe I don't know, put some money aside, something just to take care of you while you are trying to navigate and figure it out.
I do want to interject there, only because you have to be very careful in your safety plan with recruiting family and friends. And the reason I say that, depending on how long you've been in a relationship with the person, they may know everybody. So you don't want to go somewhere where they may know where you are, because it's not safe for you, the person you're with, or anybody, right? At that point. So sometimes it takes going somewhere totally unknown, totally unfamiliar. Like me, I went to the DV shelter because nobody knows where that's at, and it's confidential. So that's the whole idea of it. So I just caution you, if you are watching this and you're in a situation, you're starting to plan your exit, just be careful with where you go, right? And I know Olga said get a trusted friend, but maybe ask the trusted friend to ask somebody else that they know to keep you. Only because if that person knows where all your people are that you would go, they can find you. And that's another client of mine that I have that I'm working with now. That was the situation that she had. She could not stay with her family because her own brother was like ratting her out to the abuser. Go figure. So you have to be very careful in that sense. Continue, Olga.
You're
I'm sorry. I just
absolutely
wanted
right,
to share
Alaysha.
that.
And whatever is the safest way for you, you know whom to trust. Don't make it like a big announcement, like pick somebody, or maybe go to law enforcement or go to the shelter and speak to a hotline people. They will have better resources for you. Again, every situation is very individual, and your safety is your biggest priority at this moment.
So important, right? To have resources, to have people that you reach out to. Again, by breaking your silence, it will end violence, because that's where everything kind of germinates, in the silence, in that darkness that Olga was talking about in the beginning. So just reach out and don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, it's okay that you need help. And like Olga said, don't make no big to do announcements about what you're doing. You have to move in stealth mode at that point and really plan it out strategically, because the time where it's most vulnerable for you as a victim trying to come out of the situation is when you're trying to leave. That's when it's not the safest for you, right? It's going to be a place where the agitation level of this person is going to rise, and the power and control, like, it's all about power and control, and if they're losing that, they're going to be agitated to a level where, you know, they're not even going to be thinking straight, because all they're trying to do is keep you under lock and key, if you will. So
Yes.
that's it. Yeah. So let's move into healing journey. What did that look like for you? Like, once you you know, got out of the situation, what happened after for you? What was that healing journey like for you?
Okay, I'd like to mention this one thing. If you remove yourself out of this situation and you are safe and you are starting your life again, just don't be surprised if you still have feelings for the person. Don't be surprised that you miss them or have. So this is like a delayed grief, because you probably did spend some time like in the relationship together, and their body needs to release. This is very hormonal. Your body needs to go through the process of letting all these binds and connection to let it go. It's a process. And as abusive and violent the relationship could be, you can still grieve the person, you can still grieve the moments, you can still miss them. It's totally normal. Don't think that you're crazy. Don't think that something's wrong with you. It's completely normal. I was going through the same way to feel a relief that I'm no longer in this situation, and at the same time missing the companionship, missing the love, miss or whatever it looked like. So it's completely normal, and have, I would say, go and hire a therapist or a counselor, social worker, somebody that you could speak to and you could express everything that's going on with you, so they could help you process. Because
Yeah.
without that kind of support, you can think like, oh, I miss them, I should go back. No, 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 no. You
Yeah.
miss them, it's okay. It's a grieving process. It's gonna take some time, and at the same time have the support and the accountability of a professional, so
Yeah.
you could stay on track and trust the process. And also, it's a lot about learning about myself, like what happened in my childhood, how this led to the decisions and to the choices, and also what made me stay there as long as I stayed. Because the brain is trying to survive, and trying, even in the bad decisions, even in the bad situations, we are still trying to find a good intention, right? I just want to be loved, so I stay here. I get breadcrumbs, but at least like I'm getting something, because everybody told me I'm not worthy of love. So there was a meaning to everything that happened. However, this is the moment when you stop being a victim and when you take your power back. This is when you take responsibility that all of these, as unfortunate as they were, all of these moments and all of these events, they were you made those choices, and because you made those choices in the past, you can make different choices now with the
Right.
awareness you have now. And this is how you take your power back, and this is when you stop being the victim and become a victor. So this
Yes.
is how you start creating your own story, your own life, and your new decisions will come from that place, a place of your inherent worth. You are worthy of love, of respect, and there is nothing outside of you that needs to be. It's all internal. You are born to this world, and you're part of this world, and you're part of this planet, and that's enough. You are enough, and you deserve all the best things and love and respect. That's all. This is the work.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what you said because and thank you for adding that, because what you were referring to is breaking trauma bonds. You know, having that grief at the aftermath of feeling like you know, I miss this person. I still love this person, and I really can't quote unquote survive without this person. But I just want to reinforce what you said. Don't go back. Don't go back. It's not real, right? It's just a process, as Olga mentioned, that you have to go through. And I love what you're saying here, because now it's like, I want to ask you too, like, who did you have to become? Because we're always talking about this idea of becoming. Who did you have to become to be who you are today? Like who is Olga right now? Like who did you have to become? Because I love the person that I met, and you know, you such a beautiful soul inside and out. And I just want people to know, like, what did that look like for you to become who you are today?
Thank you, Alaysha. Thank you. It's a great question. Who did I get to become? I got to become this woman who does not put any value or worthiness outside of herself. My worthiness is here within me. I am perfect, whole, and complete. I'm lovable. And there lies my truth. And this is where everything else comes from, right? It comes from this feeling. I don't need to achieve anything. I don't need to be anything. I am worthy as I am. I am lovable and I am enough.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much, because that's what I'm teaching the women in my program, like to really move from that space of not being worthy and feeling value. And that's why when you talk about power, my framework is power, right? It's power up. And how do you do that? And for me, I broke it down into these, you know, 5 pillars of having no, first of all, just knowing your purpose, like your divine purpose. What is that? Why are you even here? Why do you want to do whatever it is you want to do? Because something is stirring up in our spirit, right? Because that's where we are now. Something after all of this trauma, we always still, and this is what I'm finding, women, we have these gifts. We're already powerful women, and we want to give something back. So something is being stirred up in our spirit and our belly. So what is that, right? So really finding and then walking in your true divine purpose, and then having that presence. When we talked about activating your voice, right, we talked about finding your authentic voice, and that's what it's all about. Like for these women, I'm walking them through that process to be exactly what you just said, to be who you are, and to know that who you are is already enough, right? Because we're walking in a space where we're feeling very unworthy. And so going into the W is worthy, and then learning what that value is. What do you add to this, you know, to this world? What are your gifts? What are your true gifts that God has already given you? And how can we dig deep within and pull them out? And then that E is this really the environment, right? What's in your environment, like the energy that might be draining you? And so remove it, right? Remove the things that do not serve you and replace it with the things that do. And then the emotional mastery around that is the idea of being able to let go, like what we just talked about, the trauma bonds, breaking them and letting go of the grief and letting go of all this misguided love. And then R, God gave me this one, and it's the restoration, really restoring you back to who you're meant to be, putting you back on that path that God has intended for you all along. So that's my power framework. And that's why I want to help women create a compelling future. So when I met you, I knew that, you know, we were kindred spirits in this space. Your mission is certainly in alignment with what I'm doing. And that's why I invited you here to really be able to talk about what compelling future, right? So what is it that you hope to solve by sharing your story today, your mission, your vision? What is it you hope to solve in this world?
Thank you, Alaysha. And let me just roll back a little bit, because that might seem like a big task to feel your worthiness and to feel your value. And if I am to say something about the small steps that any woman reacquainted, like being reacquainted with herself, coming out of this difficult situation, start noticing what brings you joy, even small moments. What brings a smile on your face? What emotions are going through your body? Just be present, be curious, and know that whatever you're feeling is valid. Your emotions, your feelings do not need anybody's validation. They are yours, they are valid just because you are feeling them. There are no wrong feelings. So nobody can tell you you are too much, your feelings are wrong, you're overreacting. None of that crap anymore. So know and trust your body and be very gentle. And what I would say, be like your own masculine and feminine caregiver. For example, the feminine will say something, okay, take some rest, right? Or move your body. So do something soothing, maybe meditate, maybe make it nice, warm, and loving for yourself. And the masculine protector within you, and it's good to cultivate both. So the masculine is, for example, where do you need to say no? Right? Where do you need to stop people pleasing? Where do you need to put some boundaries in place or have some uncomfortable conversations? And being very honest, not honest like a tornado honest. Sometimes it comes out this way. Yes, but being honest, whatever you're feeling, it is yours, it is valid. And if your truth stirs up somebody else's emotions, that's okay. It's their job to look at their triggers, like what's happening to them, why they're being triggered. So you be gentle and compassionate to yourself. That's very important. And surround yourself, find like a women's circle, connect with other women. That's your source of support. Connect and share. And when we share in women's circles, we feel so much love, so much support. We no longer question our sanity because we know we are going through the same thing. We are on this healing journey. And this is not just you alone. This is a breaking down the legacy of generations that came before you, because they had to survive. Maybe they didn't get to have a chance to have an awareness how all these things came around. So this is your chance to leave a healthy legacy for your children, for generations to come. So it's more than you. It starts with you doing your own work. This is never selfish, because by doing your own work, you are affecting so many lives.
Love that. And you know, you already kind of answered my question, because my next question was going to be, why do you think we need to create this warriors thriving, you know, global movement, and having this network of empower and inspire women survivors who are thriving? So you kind of already answered that in talking about the sisterhood. And the second one was the benefits of joining like a warriors thriving, um, like my 1 million strong warrior women thriving survivors. And
Yes.
it's like, what is the benefit of that? And you just said it, like breaking these generational curses and creating new legacy and creating generational abundance and wealth and blessings, right? So that's really what the outcome is of having this sisterhood, this network of women who edify you, amplify you, and validate you. Because, like you said, you're not losing your sanity. You're in a growth container where you're supported. And that's what's important the most out of anything, in that feminine approach. Because I'm doing the women-centered coaching as well. Yes, we have our masculine way, and that's why we're all successful women. But my one coach called it a power paradox. And I love that, because on one end, you're like very professional, you got your degrees, you got your career, you got this, that, and the other. And that's the masculine way of doing. But then on the feminine side, there's like something's missing, right? And you've been through this trauma and you're still dealing with it, and it's still uh, creeping up with the triggers. And how do we heal it and let go and be free and, you know, be happy to be able to walk in divine purpose? So that's what I'm building here. And I'm so excited about it. And I thank you, sister, for joining my 1 million strong warrior women survivors who are thriving. I thank God that you are now also a thriving survivor. And I just wish you luck on your programming that you're doing. So tell us a little bit about like how people can reach you.
Okay, great. And again, it's an honor to be on this journey together with you, Alaysha. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
The world needs you, the world needs us, and the world needs this message. And for everybody listening, I work with women, and you touched upon this, Alaysha, the professional, successful women who are struggling in romantic relationships. And this is where the feminine side that was kind of not underdeveloped, more like was never allowed to come out and play, because we were conditioned to be these goal-oriented overachievers, striving and going after things. And we lost this ability of being soft and playful. And you would be surprised how losing the grip and getting into the feminine and more like allowing and surrender state, we can actually achieve more. This is our birthright to go and do life, because we were gifted with this gift and with this ability to be in tune with the body, with the spirit, with the energy. We have so many gifts, and we get to use them and we get to share them. And again, the more we practice those feminine gifts, the more next generation doesn't need to unlearn, because our daughters and nieces and everybody else will watch healthy feminine role models, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they will not put on this armor around them that will prevent them from fully expressing their true nature. So for those women who are interested to work with me, you can find me on Instagram at Olga Kaplan Coaching. You can schedule a discovery call with me, and I would be honored to support you.
And you know, one of the things, like I was telling you, Olga, I definitely love to work with you in the future. I know the women I'm working with, right now, I had them do their breakthrough call. It's like, the discovery or clarity call. And I had a mini assessment where just on the 5, what I call relationship dimensions, intimate partner relationships was 1, but most of the women scored like a 0 or 1. So that's going to have to be in like my high level, signature program, because I think we need to go through a different process first, like, having what the next program I'm doing is the Power Start program. So it's like a jump start and just setting the foundation for whatever it is that they want to do first. And then we'll jump into that next level. And then ultimately, it's like a 90-day, then a 6-month, and then the 1-year package will include something like that. So I would love to bring back, like when I do some immersion days, and maybe you can walk through, a session just to show them what that might look like, right? And have them, how we do the deep dive, the immersion days.
Yes.
So the immersion days, guys, is just like literally all day, like 8-10 hours. I don't know, but we've been in a couple of coaching programs together. So we've been doing this journey together, and it's been such a beautiful thing. But we have other coaches come in, so it just kind of helps each other, supporting one another, and then introducing some of the work that you're doing to the women that'll be in that program at that stage and ready, right, for the things that you're offering. I know the women I'm working with right now, we're still at foundation, so I'm just excited to be able to bring them up, to that higher level, so they're ready for the world, if you will. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to work with you, sister. And again, I just thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for the work that you're doing, as helping these women getting back into their feminine power in relationships. And I do have one client that I will refer to you, because I know she is ready for that. She's kind of beyond where we are right now, but she's ready for that. And so one person I will definitely connect you to. So as we have folks that's here live, we're going to open the session up for Q&A. If anybody has any questions, comments, or anything you might want to just share.
Alaysha, thank you. And I would be delighted to be part of your program and part of your packages. So anytime, that will be my honor. And let's see if we have questions.
I think we do. So let's add a pin. Hello, Dr. Jashay. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Hello.
Good, thank you. Thank you so
Good.
much.
Olga, thank you so much for today. This was a great session. And Alaysha, always thanks to you, because it just keeps building and building and building from week to week. I don't have a question per se. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things that you brought up. But I love that you talked about it's a process to heal. I think, I know at least for me personally, I was expecting, especially as a believer, right? I believe that God can do things like this. And I was expecting him to heal me and just to make me better and whole. And he taught me that I used to always say I'll get over it, but he taught me I can't get over it, I have to go through it. So I just appreciate you saying and acknowledging that it is a process, that we have to acknowledge it as a step by step and day by day, and getting through it that way. You had so many great points, but I also love that even not just for survivors and thrivers, but for people who are surrounded by people who have gone through assaults or things of that nature, that they have to make the decision, right? They have to make the decision to get out of it. I know that sometimes that can fester a lot of anger and like confusion in people around them, but it's not until in any situation, if I want to get my finances right, but especially in these situations, I have to make the decision to leave. You can't tell me anything. Like, my friend tells me all the time, she doesn't involve anyone in her relationships because you don't know what's on the inside. That goes for what the good or the bad, the good, the bad, the ugly. So I appreciate you saying that. So many gems. Getting a therapist, I realized I had to get, I realized that, I needed a therapist when I was talking myself through things with the same mindset that I was in the situation, going through. And my mindset wasn't different. So I'm rationalizing things. I'm not seeing things clearly. It wasn't an objective perspective. So I needed someone else to be able to voice that for me. So again, just another gem. My most impactful piece that you said was that your feelings do not need anyone's validation. And for years, like for me, I lost my voice. I say that I lost my voice because I had given so much of myself to other people, and they had really just kind of, I allowed them to destroy it. And so it's so important for people to know that your feelings are valid, and we have to separate feelings from facts and really kind of do the process of that. But our feelings are valid, and we should not let anyone take away from how we feel. So again, just that was my one of my favorite points of you talking tonight. Another one too, sorry, there were so many gems, but I love that you talked about the feminine and masculine. So really finding a balance in your self-care. I think, as I was going through my healing process, it was very masculine, and I had this expectation of heal, fix, be changed, like really demanding, and it wasn't nurturing, it wasn't loving, it wasn't soft. And even in my self-care, it can be too feminine, where I get really like, oh, just too, I don't want to say too comfortable, but too relaxed. I need to really include that masculine to say, okay, now what's next? Like, don't sit in this too long. So I love that you talked about finding that balance between the feminine and the masculine. And also really just that it's never selfish, that when we really go through this healing, and that helped me too, because I tend to put other people before me. So even when it came to me, it was hard for me to focus on me because I just didn't, worthiness was definitely a factor, but I just did not. And so to talk about it's never selfish, it's bigger than me. My healing is bigger than me. I went through what I went through to be able to talk to people who also did and may not be on this and may need to walk this path or have walked it or need to get on it and things like that. So many great things. I just want to say thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it and took a lot from it.
Oh my God, Joshi, thank you so much. As you were sharing, I was getting chills in my body. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Josh Shea. Always have, so many nuggets to share. And I mean, yeah, Olga, you was hitting on everything. And that's why every speaker that I've had is in alignment with the mission that God has given me. So that's why I know that we're going to do some work together in the signature program. And I'm just starting out with just the 6-week, power start, and let's get the foundation, right? Like she talked about, Joshua, it's the process. And I want to take the women through the process so that they can know step by step. And I know my sister loves organization and blueprints, and that's what it's all about, to create your own unique blueprint, right? Finding your voice. I know her story because we already did the breakthrough coaching call. So I know what it is that she needs. And each program is going to be customized for that individual because it's not a cookie cutter, right? And so using that power framework, we're going to walk through whatever it is that, and again, Josh, I'm still inviting you to do the power start, is because, and I know that that's needed and for you to go to the next level. We don't do this work alone. And that's the one thing I just want to press upon anyone who's watching. We can't do this work alone. We must do it in a growth container, in a sisterhood, in support, in amplification, validation, edification, right? And all of this is something that we need to do just to support one another and hold each other's hand, hold each other accountable for the things that we say we want to do and how we can grow so we don't stay stuck like quicksand sinking, right? But we're going to pull each other up and out of the muck, if you will, and then move forward. Because that's like right now, it's time for women to take a stand. And like you said, Olga, earlier, something about the birthright. It is time for us to take our birthright as queens and in our, on our throne, right? In the queendom, on our throne, and creating in this world what is needed. Because there's a lack in this masculine system. It's only masculine. We need that feminine approach, that balance, like you talked about. And it's like the yin and the yang, the two must come together. Otherwise, there's no balance. And now, as you can see, the world is so chaotic because we don't have enough women, feminine approach in leadership. And so that's what the Warriors Thrive in the signature program is going to be creating, warrior leaders, but it's going to be warrior queens, because we're going to rule as queen. We're going to have the heart of a warrior, but we're going to rule with the intellect and grace of a queen, because you don't need to always be in battle in a physical way, right? See, a queen, she's going to use her intellect. Think of the game of chess. The most important piece on that board is the queen. Think about it. So that's what we're creating here. We're creating our queens, and they're going to build their own queendom. And what that looks like is being to create their own economy, finding their true voice, walking in divine power, activating that voice, advocating for themselves and others, and then creating that compelling future. Excuse me, whatever it is that you want to create, you're going to do that in co-creation with God, but with support. You don't have to go it alone. It just takes longer. And Olga, you said something before, and we learned this from Tony Robbins. So we're stewards of Tony Robbins. If you guys know who he is, he's the big guru in the knowledge education space. And so that's how we met. Like, we're in his program together. And I tell you, I've learned so much coming out of that program, but that is the masculine way. Then we're in another program together, Born for This, with Maya Camarada. And that program, it uses the feminine approach. So we have both of both worlds. So again, sister, I'm just so happy to be on this journey with you, because now I get to take what we're learning and, and like you, and giving our gifts to the world. And I do that from the feminine approach with ease. And Josh, I could tell you that because she knew me from before, when I was like struggling with all of this stuff that I was dealing with. And then at that point of transformation where I said, enough is enough. And I decided to work on myself. I decided I needed to go on my own personal healing journey, right? And that transformation for me was just realizing that I had to take responsibility and accountability in my own life. And I had to stop blaming. I had to let go of my past. I had to forgive. And I had to stop dragging all of that pain, shame, guilt, all of that, right? All of these disempowering thoughts, and look towards what I want to create, and stop looking in the rearview mirror in my past. Because I can't live in the moment of today, and I certainly can't create the future. So it's just been a great journey. And for me, I'm just excited about what God is doing and how fast he's doing it, right? I'm like, oh my God, I need to retire. So Josh, they know what I mean when I say that, because we worked at the same place. I need to come out of there because it's in the way now, right? Mm-hmm. Like God has a word for the people. And this mighty work that I'm doing, that the vision he's given me, is, like you said, Josh, it's bigger than me. See, my healing, it was not for me. It was for the people that I was meant to impact. And again, that resonated in my spirit 6 years ago when I thought I needed to go on a career transition, right? I hired a career coach, Olga, and you may not have heard this story, but that lady said to me, like, I broke down in the third session because that's not what I needed. And that lady said to me, she was a Christian. She said, if you're not doing the thing that God has called you to do, not only are you not helping and healing yourself, but you're not helping and healing the people you're meant to impact. That second part of that is what resonated with me. And that's when I started realizing, like, there's work to do. I just didn't know what yet, right? Until the second spiritual awakening. And that's when God stopped me in my tracks. And then he told me, I'm going to be the leader of an empowered army of women from around the world. I had no idea what that meant. I was like, what do you mean around the world? I haven't even hardly left Jersey. What do you mean? Around the world, but look where we are now. We have the Warriors Thriving global movement, 1 million strong, warrior women surviving, thriving. And it's like, it's just amazing what God has done, because Warriors Thriving is like, creating soldiers, right? Women warriors. So that's what he meant. And I said, wow, look at God. So I finally knew what that meant. And I just took up arms. I took up the charge. So here we are. Joshua, I think you want to say something else?
I mean, I just 2 quick points. One, I was listening to a speaker one day, and he was saying that, we keep walking around and we say life stinks, because we are carrying around a coffin of all of our dead things, all the things that we should no longer be holding on to. And once we let that go, life becomes more fragrant. And I just also wanted to say, to your point about, men being in positions of power, even, and just to what you talked about, there are women in positions of power who believe that they have to be more masculine than feminine to do it effectively. And what I realize about me is when I am out of order, out of my identity, I am so disrupted and confused and like just a mess. That's when I really am scrambling and I'm just wavering and faltering a lot. And I think a lot of women too have made that adjustment, but that's not who they naturally are. And we need to be reminded that one, it's a balance, but two, like we can't forget that femininity piece. So I just wanted to add those two notes.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for adding that. So
Yeah.
true.
And that's who we're serving, right? We're looking for those women that, again, my coach called it the power paradox. You're successful in all the things that you quote unquote achieve, but there's something missing, and that's that balance that you're talking about. So we got Doc that came on, Dr. Cynthia. I know you kind of missed what Olga was talking about, but I think you came in when Dr. Joshe was talking, so you could get a sense of. She always got a good word for us, Olga. So I'd like to bring her on. I know she's gonna have a good word for us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. It's always a pleasure. And this is my favorite way to take it down for the evening, is to receive these positive vibes and affirmations. And I very easily pick up on what you all are saying. And what came to mind is it is long overdue for us women to come together and embrace and empower and uplift one another. It's long overdue. When you mention the masculine, men do this all the time. They may go to a bar or they may stay behind in the conference room, but men have been doing this for years. And we are so guarded and so afraid, ashamed. We have to get over ourselves. We get in our own way, and we have to stop hating on one another, and stop stealing one another's shine. We need to be the light and the power that shines on each other, and when we shine on each other, we all glow. We miss the big picture. We miss the big picture. We all glow. And there is room for all of us. And the reason why we are in our current situation is because of us. We have us to blame. It's all of us. All we have to do is encourage one another, and all of us benefit. And we have to, and the timing for this conversation is perfect, because we have to take into 2023 the necessary toolkit to elevate ourselves spiritually, physically, professionally, personally, all of that. We have to step into the new year with a checkup from the neck up, if you will, and undergo a spiritual weight loss. We need to get on a spiritual cleanse right now. So when the new year comes, we can have a better sense and a clearer definition of whose we are as well as who we are. So I enjoy
Go ahead, sister. Woo!
I enjoy this because you inspire and encourage me. Because I'm still climbing. I'm still climbing. And we can all do this together, because all of us have different goals and different dreams and different aspirations, and our walk, our daily walk is different, but we can still walk together.
Yes.
We can still walk together. Men do this all the time. This is why they're ahead of the game in the workforce, because they know that as long as they help one another, it's a win-win situation for all. And we have to master that as women and realize it's not just about us. We can't live in this world alone.
Mm-mm.
And we do more harm to ourselves than good when we stay guarded, and when we fail to connect and glow and grow from each other. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
I love that.
I love it.
Olga?
Thank you, Dr. Cynthia. Thank you. Wow. So
Oh, you're very
powerful.
welcome. You're very welcome. I get this from you all. This isn't just about me. It's never about me. It's about my service to the Lord first and foremost, and understanding that I'm a sister, just like everybody else. I need you all. You all bring this out of me. This isn't about me. I wouldn't have been able to say this if I didn't have this platform. So I thank
Amen.
you, my warrior queen. I thank you for being that light that so many of us need.
And that's what God showed me, Dr. Cynthia, is to help women activate their voice and own their power. So that's what this is really all about. Now, the group that I'm working with is survivors, obviously, but ultimately, this is for all women, right? And like you said, women as sisters across the board. And the thing is, though, in terms of who I am as a survivor that's thriving, I want to empower my sisters in that space to be able to walk in purpose, to activate their voice, to own their power, to advocate for self, to advocate for others, and to stand in their true identity of who they're meant to become, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier, Doc. You missed that part of the conversation, but we talked about becoming, right? Who we're meant to become. And I love how you closed it with just knowing whose you are, and then knowing who you are, because it's all about the identity, right? How we see ourselves. Because if we stop worrying about, like Olga said, people pleasing and worrying about what everybody else saying, not saying, doing, not doing, when you stop worrying about everybody else and look from within, then you will see who you really are. And that's what my program, the Power Start, is going to help them develop, that just baseline identity and foundation of creating, right? This idea of who they're meant to become. So I'm so excited to be able to launch this program and really help these women just get it's like a jump start. It's called Power Start, and just to go through the framework in 6 weeks and ramp up for the full signature program, so you can get all of the relationship areas. Ultimately we'll work with Olga, who is a relationship coach, so we'll be able to really work with her in the signature part, because I think that's when they'll be ready for that, right? Once we've done this baseline work. So I'm so excited to be here. Again, this is another episode 8 of Courageous Conversations. I can't wait until the new year, because we're going to have a new theme. But, right now we're still episode 8, and we're working every week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And join us next week. We're going to have, some more powerful speakers, and really be able to, just keep opening up this conversation and unraveling the puzzle pieces, so that women can start standing in their own true power. So thank you all, those of you who've joined us live. Thank you all who are on the replay. Olga, my sister, again, I thank you for accepting the invitation to come on and share your genius and your brilliance of who you are and what you're doing in the world. And we just appreciate you, sister, for your time this evening.
Thank you so much, Alaysha, and thank you for this opportunity and the work that you do. Thank you,
so
everybody.
Much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.